but the introduction of the guest speaker will be given by Commissioner Jeff Rader, District 2, DeKalb County Board of Commissioners, as he come at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch, and thank you for everyone being here today. This is a particularly important day for us. And as we memorialize military service, of course, there's Veterans Day, and then there's Memorial Day, this among the most holy days of public recognition in our country. A fact of American history is that every generation has its own relationship with armed conflict. Some conflicts are blessedly brief, while others are protracted, and each inspires gratitude. But in our nation's history, not all wars are perceived in equal terms. It often requires the distance of some years to fully appreciate the sacrifice of our service members and the wisdom of our national leaders whose decisions deploy them. We're fortunate when our military leaders have the experience of past conflict to inform their decisions within the context of current events. Their judgment is informed not only by today's situation, but also by their experience on other battlefields and with other fragile lives. Today's speaker is a man with such experience and has a career that has been shaped as a United States Marine and as a naval aviator. An ROTC graduate of the University of Missouri, General Shortal was commissioned in June of 1964 and earned his Wings of Gold in September 1966. He thereafter flew over 300 combat missions in Vietnam, earning numerous decorations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross with Gold Star. Upon completion of his combat tour, he served as a flight instructor and aircraft division officer, where he was able to impart his experience to new aviators. Today, he continues his service to the public in elected office as a member of the Dunwoody City Council. In Vietnam, 1,584 Georgians died, many of them conscripts. In our most recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, deaths were thankfully limited to 183, all volunteers. But General Shortal knows that despite the variance in numbers in their path to service, the term casualty extends beyond those killed in action, and his experience in Vietnam and its aftermath dictates his perspective on all those who we memorialize today. Please join me in welcoming General Denis Shortal.
Let me get all situated here for just a moment. Thanks, Jeff, for those kind words. As soon as I meet that guy you're talking about, I'll like to shake his hand. You know, just a couple of moments. First of all, after all the kind introductions here and everything, you took about half of my speech, so you know you're not going to have to listen to me near as long, you know. And I'm an Irishman, and you give an Irish people a stage and a mic, and they can talk for a couple, 3 hours. I don't know if they'll say anything, but they can talk for 2 or 3 hours. But I don't know, is Commissioner Johnson showed up yet? He's not here yet. Okay. I have a little byproduct of what I wanted to do today. You know, for those of you that don't know Commissioner Larry Johnson, he really wants to be a Marine, and he always has wanted to. And Colonel Edwards is here today. Doug, where are you at? He's right there. All of you know him in DeKalb County. So we were going to talk to Larry about, you know, a 13-week paid vacation in Parris Island, South Carolina. You know, we give him a free bus ticket. He gets 3 meals a day. Let me make sure I got 3 fingers here. 3 meals a day, roof over his head. And, you know, instead of 20 angry people lined up at the mic here, there'll only be 3. So, you know, and then we even give him a free ticket back home. But Larry's not here today. Larry, I know you're out there listening, so Colonel Edwards and I are going to talk to you. We'll get you that bus ticket. Major, thank you for the kind rendition. I hope when I leave the face of the earth, you can sing for me, and I'll lift up the lid and listen to you. But, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's a quote from President John F. Kennedy's inauguration speech in 1961. And today, you and I are gathered here today to celebrate and commemorate the lives of all those thousands of Americans throughout our history that have lived that quote to a maximum. I want to know if Mrs. Kincaid and Mrs. Roberts, are you here? Mrs. Roberts? I'm going to go out of protocol here for just a moment. We have a very special lady, Mrs. Roberts, right here. She is a member of the Gold Star family. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Gold Star families, a Gold Star family is someone who has lost a loved one in combat in service of our nation. Mrs. Roberts, would you please stand? And as she's standing there, yeah, thank you. You know, I want to advise all of us that are sitting here today, no matter what deeds or heroic deeds you think you've done in your life, they pale in light of the sacrifice that this lady has gone through losing a loved one. Thank you, ma'am, for being a great patriotic American. You know, I'm a God-believing man, and I have to believe that when you meet him face to face, that our gentle God will welcome you with open arms into his house. You know, life was also a lot more fun when I could see. We have a lot of elected officials here, and I was given a lot of advice here today, so I'll take some of it. And all those of their elected officials of any service, citywide, going on up, please stand and be recognized. Thank you very much for being here. I don't know if Major General Donald showed up today or not. He's an Army general, but he really wants to be a Marine also. I always give him a little static. And he's a good man to know, by the way. He's the head of the Georgia Parole Board. And the Major General Alexander, you here today? Okay, he's still over in Alabama, probably. He's finding his way over here. There's Captain John Clark and Captain John LeBou, Captain Steve Clark, Captain Art Delahousie, First Lieutenant Bob Klages, First Lieutenant Steve Sayers, First Lieutenant Steve Majors, Sergeant Kowalski, and the rest of all of our patriotic American warriors that have served our nation so well, members of the DeKalb County Commission that are here, and last but not least, my fellow Americans. It is my honor and my pleasure to be with you here today to celebrate the lives of those who have given us everything and given their all. My next part of my speech, I'm going to cut out of there. Thank you for taking care of that, so I won't have to worry about that one. But, you know, there are moments in your life that are so monumental that they stay vivid in your memory for the rest of your life. The scene I'm going to describe to you here is a scene that seems like it was only yesterday, and yet it was 3 years ago. There's a young Marine his name was Scott Harper. His nickname was Boots. He's from Winston, Georgia, which is a small town out here in Douglas, Georgia. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. And he graduated from high school there in 2008. He was a member of the golf team. We don't get many golfers in the Marine Corps. We get those other guys. He was also a very popular student there. Some of his friends told me that he was the guy that everybody wanted to be friends with. He joined the Marine Corps when he got out of high school because, as he told his father, you know, I want to be with the best, and I think they are the best. In October of 2011, the date was actually October 13th. Hi, Commissioner May, CEO May just arrived on the scene here. Let's give him a hand. On October 13, 2011, he was on his second tour in Afghanistan, and while involved in a firefight with enemy forces, he was killed in action. 10 days later, on October 23rd, 2011, I put on my uniform and headed out for Ephes Baptist Church, a small country church out here in Villa Rica, Georgia. I was going to the funeral for Lance Corporal Harper. On the way out, it was a normal trip until I turned off of Highway I-20. And something got me right away in my eyes in front of me on both sides of the road. And for the next 2 miles all the way to that church, there were patriotic Americans lined up on both sides of the highway. The signs, posters, flags, you name it. You know, you see that on television and you see it in the movies, but to see it personally is inspirational. It grabs you. It makes you feel good about your country. When I pulled up to the church, there were cars parked everywhere. The parking lot was full. For some odd reason, I got a parking space. The parking lot was full. The fields around there were full of cars. As I walked up, I saw at least 100 members of the Patriotic Guard. Those are former military personnel that come to all the military funerals. They ride motorcycles, by the way. You've probably seen them. They usually have flags on the back of their motorcycles. Lining the steps of the church was members of the local Marine Corps League, the Redcoat Battalion, as I call them. When the funeral procession showed up, you know, usually the Marine Detail was there, by the way. But in this case, the pallbearers were his friends, his close friends. They were dressed in black trousers, black shirts, and yellow ties. As you can see, I can remember all this very vividly. They were all clean shaven, looking sharp. Corporal Harper was proud of them. As a senior Marine there, I walked directly behind Corporal Harper in his casket. As we walked up the stairs of the church, I looked out around it. There had to be 1,000 people there in this little Baptist church out here in the country. As we walked down the center aisle of the church that maybe held 300, maybe 350, there was at least 400 to 500 people, all with their eyes focused on us. We got to the front of the church, myself and the rest of the Marines went around and sat on the altar. The local pastor there got up and he talked about this young man, Scott Harper. You could tell right away that he'd known him for years. He talked about his worldly and his spiritual qualities. And when he sat down, a young lady came to the stage. She started to talk about him, and as she did, she kept losing control of herself and crying. But she continued to proceed with her speech, and she talked through her tears until she was finished. It was an impressive thing to me. It was one of those sights that brought to mind a poster. If you've ever been down the Atlanta airport, and you see the poster there, and there's a poster of a Marine or a soldier there, and it says, on the bottom, there's a caption that says, "Heroes not in movies." That poster came to mind as she was standing there. After she was done, one of the pallbearers came up with a music case to the altar, and he sat down, he opened the music case, and he pulled out a guitar. Symbolically, Lance Corporal Harper also played the guitar. He nervously fumbled with it, trying to tune it up, and when he finally got it tuned up in a few moments, he played and sang a song, something to reference, "We will meet you again across the River Jordan." There was not a dry eye in the house, not one, including mine, by the way. And I will tell you, it was just an inspirational moment to be there. I think all Americans should have been there that day because it was so inspirational to me, and I'm sure it would have been to you. After the service was over, we took Corporal Harper out to his final resting place at the Eufus Baptist Church Cemetery. And there, along with his friends, his fellow Marines, his countrymen, we paid our final respects to an American hero. Now, why in the world do I tell you the saga of a 21-year-old Marine from Winston, Georgia? I'll tell you why. There's 3 reasons I'll tell you why. Number 1, today is his day. It's not my day, it's not your day. It's his day, and it's the day of thousands and thousands of our Americans who have gone forth with courage and determination and carried our banner against the foes of this country to preserve our freedom. You know, and in just, if you could, for one moment, if you were able, please stand and join with me in a moment of silence in remembering those that have given their lives that we honor here today. And as you do so, if you know of someone, remember their faces, remember their deeds, remember their laughters, and remember what they stood for. Thank you. second reason I tell you about the deeds of Lance Corporal Harper is to remind myself and you that freedom has never been free, nor will it be free. It is my sad duty to tell you today, each and every one of you, that as long as we expect to be free men and women in this great country of ours, more men and women will have to carry our banner to battle against the foes of this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be sitting out and a member of the press or anything else to understand that there are some bad folks out there. I think, yes, and the other thing I guess I need to remind you of is that there will be more funerals like Lance Corporal Harper's. But freedom is worth it. The third reason I tell you about Lance Corporal Harper is to kind of dispel a myth that is sometimes portrayed in the media that, you know, that there aren't a lot of patriotic Americans out there. I will tell you that there's millions of patriotic Americans in this country, just like the thousands that I saw on October 23rd, 2011 at Lance Corporal Harper's funeral. In my speech and my introduction today, I mentioned several Marines. You're probably wondering where they are. Well, they couldn't be here today because they, like Lance Corporal Harper, are good friends of mine, and they paid the supreme sacrifice. I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that Memorial Day is a very, very difficult day for me. You see, I can see their faces just like they were here yesterday. They are men that step forward. They will never grow old. They will always remain forever young. And for as long as I walk this face of the earth in my own inadequate way, and I will admit to you it is inadequate, I will carry their banner with me. So you ask yourself, and you ask myself, I ask myself, how do you live on Memorial Day? Well, we know we're a couple days ahead of Memorial Day, but the first thing we should do is do what we're doing here today. We should stop and remember. That is critical. That is critical. Stop and remember those that have paid that supreme sacrifice, those that have stepped forward in the light of freedom. And then, you know what we should do on this Memorial Day that comes up Monday? We should celebrate the festivities of the day. We should go out and go to a parade. We should go to a picnic, go to a ball game, have a cold beverage, have a hot dog, a hamburger, a picnic, have some fun, dance, laugh. Because you see, that's why they gave their lives. They gave their lives so that you and I can enjoy our freedom to the fullest. They didn't want us to sit around and mope around every day. They wanted to be remembered, but then they wanted you and I to go out there and have some fun and enjoy our freedom. And so it's with that thought that today we should all thank God for those fellow Americans who valued their way of life, with love for their families, their friends, and their countrymen on a higher plateau than they valued their own life. Because it is to them that you and I owe our all. Because without freedom, we have nothing. And it is in their honor that I wish you a memorable and happy Memorial Day. Thank you, and Semper Fidelis to the Marines.